Brett, Ian and Chris have travelled a long road. They've listened to some of the industry's leading experts.
From a legal perspective, if you even give one share to an investor, you will absolutely give them a suite of rights as a minority shareholder.
Depending on the profile of the clients, you could obviously go back to your dealer group. It may add some volume to some other businesses in the dealer group.
They've had to decide what to take on board and what to throw away.
There is very distinct pros and cons for debt and very distinct pros and cons for equity. And I did not understand the major differences until I went through this whole process.
You've got to be completely and utterly precise, because at the end of the day, $100,000 worth of revenue equates to an asset that's worth, potentially $300,000.
It's now time for them to pitch their vision to our panel of judges to answer the ultimate question: would you buy my business? It's Judgment Day. Our panel of expert judges lead some of the biggest financial institutions in Australia. They have undertaken countless acquisitions and understand intimately the challenges advisors and accountants face in growing their practice value.
I'm Mark Ballantyne. I'm the General Manager of Financial Wisdom,
which has over 434 advisors and more than $8.2 billion in funds under management.
I'm Greg Bright. I'm the proprietor of Buy and Long Advisory Services.
With over 30 years of experience, he has founded 3 publishing companies.
Excellent.
Steve Davison, Executive Director, Advice Solutions, Genesis Wealth Advisors.
Which has over 251 advisors and more than $8.3 billion in funds under management.
I'm Matt England. I'm the head of the dealer group business for BT Advice.
With over 438 advisors and $9.8 billion in funds under management. Brett and Ian were initially on a quest to raise $1 million through equity. If their deal is successful, they can build up their IT infrastructure and bring a marketing expert on board. After meeting with our mentors and advisors, Brett and Ian have changed their strategy and are now raising capital through debt.
So where are you guys up to with the debt?
Not being a betting man, I'm fairly comfortable that we might get the debt.
On terms that we're more than happy with.
So now the time has come to face the judges. How are they feeling about their strategy?
Actually pretty excited. I think there are a few things there that I'm looking forward to seeing the judges' reactions. Obviously the feedback. These guys are really serious in the industry, and getting their feedback on our forward-looking plans is going to be pretty cool.
I'd hate to have thought we were presenting 6 months ago, but what we've been through in the last 6 months has been quite amazing, and I'm very much looking forward to showing them what we've done.
The judges have Brett and Ian's business plan in front of them. What are their first impressions?
Great foundations, but some work to do.
It's a really complex business on paper. Very keen to see how the pieces plug together and they make it work.
We've got a few cards up our sleeves.
Now as they face the judges, the $1 million question is, did they or didn't they?
Okay guys, the question we're all really wanting to know is, did you get the financing?
The $64,000 question.
I guess the answer is...
It's got to be a big yes. Wow, okay.
Really? Oh, I'm really surprised. To be honest, didn't think you had much of a chance, and so congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
Has it come with many conditions, or are you quite comfortable with the type of debt you've got?
Extremely happy, big time. I think back to that meeting we had with Martin Checkett last year, and that was such a turning point, and that itself focused us from thinking we'll take anything in a way to we just want this, and it really focused our attention. It was amazing how things fell into place after that.
So Brett and Ian, we'd be very interested to know now what your plans are for the next 3 to 5 years. I understand you've got a bit of a presentation.
You've seen the diagram of the company, and as we've discussed, we've jettisoned some business units. That effectively frees our product offering to mortgages, financial planning and real estate, which fits quite well and is really quite consumer focused. The opportunity that everyone has seen in the business is really focused on the corporates.
What's the client value proposition when you go into one of those distribution channels?
It's very, very basic level advice, and what we're looking to create is information products around that. Most clients don't really care about what's happening in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. Most clients actually want to pay their credit card off.
So guys, the education component clearly crucial, and hats off to you. How are you going to make money out of this?
It might end up being a membership style of system. However, the real money that's to be made is in the progression of those clients to the end financial planning piece.
So you're working with these large corporates. They've got between 200 and 500 employees, sometimes more. What do you expect in terms of take-up?
This probably underlines the low ball figures. We've been operating on less than a 1% take-up.
What's your pricing model for a client that would take up, say, refinancing their mortgage through that scenario?
Part of this is all heading towards packaging all of those services so that it's quite comfortable for a client to actually engage with us with all of those services or just one of those services.
How do those sorts of clients fit in on the A to D sort of ratio? Are they at the low end? Or,
Look, yeah, typically they were C's and D's because they're first home buyers.
Brett and Ian are hanging their hat on education and building trust with the clientele. But is there more? What are they actually selling?
So you talked about an equity partner coming in at some point in time to accelerate the growth plans. What are they buying? Are they buying distribution? Are they buying intellectual property? Are they buying a technology? Are they buying products?
Distribution. And that's really what they're buying. You know, everything else really sits around distribution. So if we can demonstrate that, then I think you're talking about a business that becomes very, very interesting for a lot of parties.
What's the press release that goes out to the market for the acquiring company about all of the great things they're buying from you?
The number of clients that are already available and the number of new clients that we're bringing on every day, every week. I think that's kind of something unique in the market at the moment. A lot of financial planners are not bringing on new business. The other piece that I think they would be focusing on was that unique distribution channel, i.e. through the corporates. I think that is what will be the focus.
The boys believe their ace card is their distribution access to clients, their education focus, and they've mentioned their technology.
Technology and kind of the client experience are really, really good things to bring together. And companies that have done that well and designed their business from the outside in, like Apple, are worth a lot of money these days. Can you be the Apple of financial advice in Australia?
I don't see why not. There's no reason why what we have at the moment is the embryo of something that can be really quite big.
These guys are here defending a dream. They could be the next Steve Jobs, but what do they expect the business to be worth?
How much would it be worth?
Well, you mentioned the $5 million turnover mark. We think that's probably stage one, really. So at that point, $2 million EBIT at 8-10 times, who knows? But beyond that, we're thinking a much bigger picture.
What sort of multiple are you thinking of?
So if we picked an average and said 10 times, 2 million, that'd be a nice number.
So, okay, 3 years from now, this business is worth $20 million. How realistic is that?
In the right market, it's very realistic.
Yeah.
If we're able to show reproducible results that are being delivered by the team as opposed to by us, then I think you're starting to get closer to that sort of money. And then if we're able to identify a potential suitor that has the ability of bolting us on, where we can provide them with extra distribution, and we might be able to create some extra value for them by using their client bases as well, then there could be some good interest.
So that's only 36 months away. 36 months, and these sales take 12 months, 24 months to complete.
Absolutely.
$20 million in 3 years. That's a big dream. The judges will have to think carefully about this one.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. It's been great, very enlightening. We're going to have a chat amongst ourselves, and we'll come back to you in a moment.
Thanks for your time. Ta.
It's now the moment of truth for Chris Brown. He's about to put his business plan on the line and find out whether it's good enough to impress our panel of expert industry judges.
Yeah, a bit nervous. I mean, we've got the creme de la creme of the industry, sort of thinking about whether or not they like my value proposition and they like my style and they like my vision. So it's going to be a little bit daunting hearing what they have to say about it.
Chris's business, Financial Design for Life, is aimed at servicing the Gen X and Y market. And while some of his advisors have questioned the sustainability of that model, Chris has stuck to his guns. He wants to reinvest the capital in a strategic acquisition.
How do you actually make a profitable venture when we know we have a dilemma and advice around people actually valuing advice and paying for it?
No one's yet captured that market space of the preeminent advice provider to Gen X and Gen Y. So I think in terms of a business strategy, the market's open for you. There is an opportunity to grasp that.
Yours is what I call a strategy of association. You're basically aligning yourself and the values that matter to you with your client base.
With Judge Greg Bright in China assessing his latest deal, our 3 remaining judges have had a chance to look over Chris's strategy for the future. So what are their first impressions?
The challenge, the opportunity for him is to take being a young advisor with a young client base and make something of it that's long-term, that's sustainable.
He's had a wealth of expertise or mentors come in and give him advice and suggestions around how he takes his business forward. So really keen to hear how he's digested that, turn that into where he wants to take the business.
My business, in my eyes, is the best business in Australia, but I'm a little bit biased. So fingers crossed that they think the same way.
At last, Chris meets the judges, and he's putting his business plan to the test. His main aim was to sell a parcel of clients. So the question on everyone's lips is, was he successful? And does he have a pile of cash to play with?
Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Welcome to Judgment Day.
Yeah, good to see you.
Chris, the big question we really want to know is, were you able to sell that parcel of clients?
Well, I'm pleased to say that I was.
Congratulations, Chris. That's great news. Why this buyer?
Was actually bought by a large institution. So this institution obviously wants to grow its own distribution, and they actually selected the person.
So Chris, you had quite strong expectations around the price you would get up front in the series.
Yeah.
Did you come close to it?
Yeah, we got a multiple in excess of 3 times, so we're thrilled with that. We think it's a fair outcome for my business and also a fair outcome for the buyer. We're really excited about what we're going to use that money for, so that's the next step.
You've just sold a parcel of clients for in excess of 3 times. What are you prepared to buy for?
I've looked at 6 businesses and only 2 of which fit my criteria.
Yep.
For the other 4, I wouldn't pay much, and in fact I'd pay nothing at all, just because it would be foolish to actually incorporate them into my business. But for the 2 that are left over, I know that there's synergies between my practice and their practice. I think that there's going to be huge profit benefits. I think there's going to be an upside just in terms of new business opportunities because they've been underserviced. So if people are thinking about EBIT multiples or multiples of ongoing revenue, I might sort of go to the upper end, because I think it would be beneficial to my business.
You said you're prepared to pay over the odds, above what the industry's paying at the moment. Who keeps you sane? Who keeps you rational? Who are you going to make sure that you don't pay too much and that the clients really are worth it?
I think one of the best decisions I've made as a business owner is putting in place a board of advice. And these guys aren't backslappers, Matt. These guys provide pure objectivity.
So Chris, I'm assuming they would have sort of challenged you about taking the money and repaying debt as opposed to making an acquisition.
Yeah.
How'd that conversation unfold?
It came back to my age, Steve. They literally just looked at me and they said, look, Chris, you're 34. You've got no intention in retiring by the age of 40, 50 or 60. So why don't you pin your ears back, sell the clients that don't fit our model, but then acquire clients that do. They want to use that capital to make another strategic acquisition so we can keep growing a great team.
Chris is growing his business through acquisition, but is that his only growth strategy?
So Chris, you've got quite an aspirational business plan, or you've set yourself some challenging goals, particularly around your revenue growth. How much of that's going to come from organic growth and how much is going to come through acquisitions?
I'd like to see the growth in my business over the next 3 years come from 2 parallel strategies in equal proportion. We're working furiously at the moment at looking at different ways to attract new people to our business, and that might be regional radio advertising, strategies online. So they're the sorts of areas that we want to work on the organic growth space. In terms of the acquisition space, more of the same, but a lot more defined. You know, making sure that we make the right acquisitions and we don't make acquisitions for acquisition's sake.
Chris, you talk about running two parallel streams of growth, the organic growth, but also the acquisition. In both cases, you're acquiring clients. Do you have a sense of what a good year looks like for acquiring those ideal types of clients you want?
A good year for me would be 300 clients that fit in my target market. It will, in the first year that we engage with the client, we try and generate $3,000 worth of fees. Now that can come from an insurance commission, it can come from a lending commission, or it can come from a fee associated with their investments. We don't really mind.
Short-term growth looks promising, but what is Chris's longer-term plan?
Chris, you talked about you being in the game for another 30 years or so.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you in the business? What's the plan?
I've got such a young team, Steve, that they struggle to think beyond 2 weeks, let alone 5 years or 30 years. So at the end of the day, all of our business plans are 3 years. So we run hard at 3 years and then we reassess. So we're just at the commencement of that 3-year period. And over that time, I'd love to grow our turnover to about $3 million and the net capital value of the business to $5 million. And I think it's achievable.
$3 million worth of turnover, $5 million worth of net value.
Yep.
That's just the first part of the goal.
Yeah.
Where to?
Where to from there? Yeah. I'd reassess on the 1st of July 2015. Honestly, like, I just think with that razor-like focus just on the next 3 years, we'll get there. And if we're in that position in 3 years' time, I think we'll be well placed to do whatever we want.
Chris is passionate about his clients and his plans are ambitious, but they don't seem to stretch beyond 3 years. That will give the judges something to think about.
Well, Chris, thanks for the information you've given us today. It's been quite enlightening from my perspective and no doubt from the other guys as well. I think we've probably got enough. What we'd like to do now is we'll have a bit of a conversation and we'll come back.
Good on you, Matt. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Mark. Cheers.
Our players have done as much as they can for now.
I think that overall they'll be quite confident that the business will succeed one way or another. Whether or not we get the same feedback about that sale price and that sale expectation in 3 years, I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're the guys that actually spend the dough, aren't they? So I'm really keen to hear what they've got to say.
With the benefit of hindsight, I wish I had shared a little bit more.
It's now time for the judges to reveal their verdict. If these businesses were up for sale, would they buy them?
You've got a business that's potentially very, very attractive.
And we'd be very interested in having a conversation.
$20 million is a lot of money.
Find out next time on No More Practice Series 3, Judgment Day.